Okay, excuse me, testing, 1, 2, 3. Hopefully this is all working okay. Actually, C4, since how you're there, I know there's a bit of a delay, but if you can let me know if this is working okay before I continue, that would be great. Right, okay, so this is really just to share an observation that I did the other week. It would normally have just been a standard video edited together the normal way with the relevant bits and then put on the channel without having to go live, but I've been having a lot of problems with OBS and recording stuff, so whenever I try to put the information together and then record it and talk over it, all that nonsense, the end result ended up choppy every time I did it, even when I changed the settings. So I'm hoping I can get through this live and not have to worry about the same thing happening. So what I've done, I've got the relevant material and just kind of stacked it in order and rendered it out into a couple of videos, which I'm going to just play and pause as I go through on VLC player and just show you what's up. To start with, basically the observation was through in Aberdour on the Fife coast, and this was to basically repeat an observation by Miles Davis. And this is the location here. You know, I took a little screenshot with my phone when I was there, so obviously the blue dot is me just right at the end there, and this is the little lighthouse out in the end of the rocks and stuff. So you'll see how this all looks in a second. Let me just bump that up. So this is the location in real life. So that's just the lighthouse at the end of the rocks. That's Inchkeith Island over in the water there, a couple of miles out. So normally I would just show my stuff, but there's a wee bit of backstory just to show what Miles did, and also I want to speak about a flat earther called Flatsa who went out to this location as well. So first I'm going to run a bit of Miles's video to show what he did. So let Miles, let you listen to this part of Miles's video.
Welcome. This is another video showing just how easy it is to confirm that the Earth is indeed spherical, and to demonstrate that objects do disappear below the horizon, either as they get further away or as your angle of observation changes. So this morning I went to Aberdour on the Fife coast and took some video. And this is the location from which the video was shot at the highest elevation, and I then moved from this elevation down
come on.
The steps you're about to see towards the little light beacon that you can see in the distance there. There's two light beacons, one used and one disused.
Oh wow, VLC player's been a real
And so we're changing our elevation and taking video.
Right, I don't know if this is going to keep doing this, but VLC player keeps pausing and going grey screen, so the whole idea of doing this was to avoid this kind of stuff happening. Unfortunately it's doing this. Anyway, we'll see how it goes, we'll continue on. I'm just pausing Miles's video here just to, you can see the lay of the land in this picture, and obviously you'll see that it makes it easy to tell that I'm in the same place when it gets to mine.
From different heights above sea level.
So the whole point of what Miles was saying was just to say where he was, the fact that he went up the hill and he was going to look at different heights from above sea level at a certain point over the water. And then Miles being Miles,
I've overlaid an ordnance survey map here just to
a bit of groundwork,
confirm the elevations for the various.
So you can see there he's putting in an OS overlay in Google Earth to identify the elevations.
Points where I took some video. So there's a little lighthouse down at 5 meters, and then above sea level, and then there's a little hill and some steps up the hill. And I was located, the high point was between the 25 and 20 meter contour lines there, with my camera on this little knoll and on a tripod. I took another video from just above the 15 meter contour line.
Right, so with Miles having this view, it makes it easier for me as well to show the same sort of thing. So obviously I'm going to be up the same stretch of hill. There's a lighthouse beacon here. There's this one down in the rocks, which is the one I showed the photograph of a minute ago. This is the kind of car park area. And one area I want to point out is this road in here and over, this kind of the grass to the side. This is one of the spots where I'll take an observation from that Miles didn't use. So in future, when I'm talking about this, I'm going to refer to it as the boathouse area. But basically, Miles has started off up the hill, come down, went across to the lighthouse, and then down to somewhere over here to do a couple of observations. And I've done something similar.
And another video from next to that little light beacon there, which is the 5 meter contour little line doesn't perfectly line up with where that lighthouse is, but that's where the 5 meters is, 5 meters above sea level. And then I took some more video from lower down.
Alright, so next section is going to be a couple of minutes long. This is the actual observation by Miles, and this is the entire point of his video, to show that he did these different elevation shots, but he did it as one continuous shot. So what I've done is I've just sped this up so that you can see the whole thing. So just bear with it for a couple of minutes, guys. Also, the reason I'm not looking at the chat is it seems to be that when I was interacting with the chat, that was when VLC player was going a bit nuts. So I'm just going to keep it like this for now.
So a quick 360 here, just to show you the location. Saw two lighthouses. One is used. The camera is level with the highest point, which is 25 meters, and I've used 24 meters just to allow for maybe a little bit lower than that.
You can see it as he looks around. You see the steps. You can see the fence running up the side. The little stile at the back. That beacon that I was talking about when we were looking at the overview. Miles heads down at a few meters and takes an observation from here. He starts by looking at this teardrop-shaped hill, which is called Berwick Law, and then swings over to the point that we're going to be concerned with, which is actually a group of islands. So it's Bass Rock's the big one in the middle, Phaedra is the one on the left with a lighthouse on it, and Craigleith is the one on the right.
We're going to continue on down steps here. You might see that the trees and the bushes and the lighthouse are getting away of any further shots from these steps. So going down towards the old disused lighthouse, you can see in the corner of the screen there. And there's not much to say here. Sorry for making it seasick, but I wanted to do this as a continuous shot, so that nobody argue that all shots taken on different days with kind of different heights or something like that should sort of people will be able to see that all shots were taken on the same day at the same time. So
you're going to see me do something similar, but it's handy to see Miles so you see what it's being compared to, and obviously it gives you the lay of the land before it gets round to my stuff as well. So this is I'm going to cross the car park, and to the left is the area I pointed out a second ago where I'll be taking one of my observations, which, as I say, I'm going to refer to that as the boathouse area. But Miles heads over and goes to the base of this lighthouse here and takes another observation here. Again, he lines himself up and then moves over. So the whole point obviously of this observation is to show that the way obstruction changes as he moves to lower elevation. He did have a bit of refraction on that day, so you can see a wee bit of mirage. So then he moves down to this lower area, and this is something we're going to be talking about in a minute. So you kind of step down, and then there's a path through between the rocks out to a little plateau here, and this is where Miles took his last observation. So nice little sort of flat-ish area, and the lowest part of the main body of land that's the lighthouse is situated on, if you like. And you can see the difference as he moves down. You can no longer, in his images, you can no longer see the actual island part of Phaedra there. You can just see the lighthouse that's on it. He just identifies his location, does a 360, and that's pretty much the end of his video section. So then this is Miles showing some stills from his video and showing the results, and you know they really speak for themselves. Miles obviously has put in the estimated elevations as he's worked his way down using his his OS maps. But I don't think with an observation like this you even need specifically the elevation when you're doing comparison shots between different points. And also as far as the OS overlay and all that kind of stuff, because Miles did it all, I'm not going to try and waste my time trying to do the same thing and identify my exact elevation. And I'll put a link to Miles's video in this once it's done, and if anybody wants that information they can glean it from Miles's video if they haven't already seen it. Anyway, clear difference between Phaedra for me is going to be the focus when I do mine rather than the whole group islands, but this is really the thing that makes it easiest to see. But when you look at all three of them, you can see the difference. Initially, obviously, all three are well above the waterline. A slight change here, but by the time he gets to 6 meters, there's a big difference. Half the this is gone. Bass Rock, previously you could see the shape, both Phaedra and Craigleith here. Now it's basically as if there's a gap in between. You can only see this section of Craigleith, and then eventually it's like Phaedra and Craigleith are gone and only a part of Bass Rock is visible.
In GIMP 2 to
let me just continue on a sec.
So I'll leave these for you to look at.
He moves on then and he shows
just remember
another part. He just
camera elevation.
I've got another little set of stills that Miles did in his video just to show. Yeah, just to the other side there, just for more comparison. So again, pretty obvious that this is sinking down and disappearing.
Water between us and those objects.
So next, I'm going to be looking at a video by Flatsa, who's a flat earther who likes to basically go around trying to do the same observations as Miles.
So quickly confirm the time.
Oh yeah, I forgot about this, but this was just added. I left this in just to as a reminder that Miles does provide data when he does his videos. So he did the tide data at the time. Right, so this is Flatsa's video. You can see here, globe model says no, real life observation says yes. He's basically trying to imply that we're seeing too much. But as you can see, Miles just did a full video, both supplying the data of where he was and made a point of doing a continuous shot, working from a higher to lower elevation. Flatsa literally just goes to one location here, zooms in and zooms out. His video was really short and it could have been half the length because he does the zoom in, zoom out, then just repeats that while doing some overlays to point out where it is and doing the elevations and stuff. But the thing about Platza's video on this one was he was claiming to be at 3 meters, and of course Miles' last location down in that little plateau is Miles saying he's at 3 meters. So he was effectively trying to say, well, we can see everything here and we shouldn't be able to see it when I'm at the same location as Miles and the same elevation. And he does slow his videos down a bit. Like, give me a second and I'll try and just skip it a little bit. Let me see. Okay, I'll just leave it there. So while it's running, I should point out the elevation of Phaedra in total should be the equivalent of 2 of these lighthouses stacked on top of each other. So even though he thinks he's showing something that supports flat Earth, he's already going against it because part of the island's missing. Flat Earthers always like to concentrate on, we can see something, and it might not quite tally with an exact geometric figure or something like that, but they always ignore the fact that stuff's missing at the bottom. So this was the thing that I picked up on when I was watching Flatsa's video, is that he seems to be up on these rocks here, whereas Miles had went down to this little location here. He stands up and looks around just to finish off his video, and it's pretty much the end of it. That's all he did, was lean on the rocks, zoom in, zoom out, look at the lighthouse, and he was pretty much done. But there's something I want to point out which I'll show in a second. Let me just let this run. Sorry about the speed on this, it's the speed of his videos and I forgot to speed this part up. So you just need to bear with it. He finishes off by doing this on the first video, and obviously the implication is that because it's not exactly what a curve calculator says, there's something iffy. Ignore the obvious that stuff's missing and pretend there isn't an atmosphere, essentially. Alright, so I did these quick little graphics to point out what Flats had done. He's up on the rocks up here, whereas Miles was down here, and you can see that from Miles's video that we just watched, that he's down in this little plateau area. And then another quick one just to point out, just to demonstrate that there was a difference. He was over on the path near the rocks, and you can see by the rotation of the beacon that Miles was in a different position. Obviously he was down lower and over to the side. So supposedly in response to that and other people talking about what Flatsa did, this is literally meant to be a response to mine's and others people's complaints about Flatsa's video. Again, when he starts off, you can see that most of Phaedra is already missing anyway, because it's almost, the horizon is almost up to the base of the lighthouse, so he's already disproven flat Earth anyway. But his grand response to people complaining about him, not doing what Miles did and so on, was to more or less do the same thing. He went to the trouble of travelling all the way back here just to do one quick zoom out. Now the difference is, you can see he has moved down closer to this plateau area, which is fair enough. But although he's pointing, I just want to point out that while he says base of lighthouse 5 metres, he's still saying he's at 3 metres, right? Just bear that in mind. We'll get to that in a second. And he doesn't even do a full 360, he just stops there. Alright, so let me get rid of that and we'll move on to the next one. So if you look at this little last section of Miles's videos, he spins round, right? Look where he's level with. When he was down in the plateau, but he's level roughly with here. He's below the level of these rocks up here, and as he turns around, he has to angle up to look up at the lighthouse there. Does he's 360, and he's kind of got these bushes in the way, looking over at the beach. And then look at Flats's again. When he turns round, look at that. He seems to be up at this kind of level. He's, let me just go a wee bit further. He's definitely not below these rocks the way Miles was. So he's actually up at a higher level, although he's went to the trouble of moving down as if he's responding to the complaints. So then when he does a little pan to the right as well, when he gets near the end here, you can see that that's supported by the view over the bushes. The beach is well clear of the bushes there. So Flats, is this a question if somebody's just being deliberately deceptive or not? I'll let you decide that one. But Miles does a full observation from the top of the hill all the way down to the bottom. Flatsa goes to the trouble of travelling there, and all he does is one zoom out, and he does it on the rocks above the lowest point, claims to be at the same height as Miles was at the lowest point. Goes back in response to complaints about it, supposedly to do it right, and still does it at a higher elevation anyway. It's pretty pathetic, Let me just check in the chat. So, everybody following what's going on so far? The delay on this stuff is a nightmare when you're trying to speak, when you're talking to people in the chat live. I tell you that, it's something that drives me nuts. Oh, C4's away. Cheers, C4. I'm just going to wait until I want to make sure everybody's still able to hear everything and see everything okay, and then I'll continue on. If not, technically it doesn't matter, because the whole point is just to get the observation out there. Okay, cheers Tommy. Right, sorry, but I'm going to need to ignore chat again, because this VLC thing doesn't seem to like it. Alright, so on to my stuff. So I went through to the same place, and the first thing I did is just have a wander about, and I had the P900, so I took some pics and stuff with the P900. So this is just part way up the hill above the tower, but midway up, looking over. Just a quick shot with the P900. And then I just took, zoomed in a couple of times to show the steps from, how it looks as you zoom in and zoom in and zoom in from that point. You can see the lighthouse at Burnt Island there. This is the, what we're going to be concentrating on. Phaedra, Bass Rock, Craigleith, but I'm going to be mainly concerned with Phaedra. Bit hazy, but you can still see stuff, and you'll see later on that, between slight changes in the weather and a bit of contrast enhancement and stuff, you can see what's going on. Excuse me. So little zoom out with the P900 from that location, and this bin's going to help us out with identifying a location in a second. Bin lorry or truck or whatever. Waste disposal truck, whatever you want to call it. Alright, so a quick pan just to confirm where I am. You can see the fence, and once I zoom in you'll be able to see the steps. So this was like a just a quick scout to see the lay of the land, if you like. So now you see where this is reversing into. This is the point I was trying to point out a minute ago. Let me just let that right. So he's reversed into this bit here, which when we were looking at the overview, I was pointing out the area. I'm going to take an observation from in here and call it the boathouse area. There's some red bins just in here, which is what they're going to sort out. So you'll see them in a when I move down there, just to help identify the locations. Alright, so we're definitely in the right place, definitely in the same place, basically. So picture from the P900 from that location. And then this was moving down to a lower point. You'll see this truck is still here, so it's a good reference again. So I've just basically moved in, lower, near to the bottom of the hill. And again, just checking it out. And even though it was only a few meters of difference, there is a visible difference in what's you can see in the islands, but it's not huge. It's handheld, by the way, so bear with all the flapping about. And then this is looking from the area I'm talking about that I was going to refer to as the boathouse area. So you can see that Phaedra's mostly gone there, even though it's hazy. You can still make it enough to spot that. And again, if you give it a second, I'll zoom out and you get a bit of a feel for where I'm standing. Alright, so just looking through between those bushes there, and when I look to the left you can see this little, it looks like there's a path through there. It doesn't go anywhere obviously because it's just rocks there. Signage, car park, and then that's the bins I was just talking about. So the bin truck was coming in here. You can see the fence running up the hill when I zoom in there. So that's where I've come from. So for anybody, looking to go there and repeat this observation or compare my observation to somebody else's or whatever it might be, there's, no doubt about the actual locations where I'm standing. Alright. I'll just let that play out and we'll get to the next section. So these are just, slightly contrast enhanced images from those points. And then I did a second set of the same images after these three. So, you can see the difference already. And that's only starting halfway up the hill and moving down. So these are just, throwing more stuff at it to try and make it stand out a bit more. So it's easier to see what's going on. And once you get to that last one, it's undeniable that these islands are basically disappearing. Alright, so that was the quick scout with the P900. Let me just quickly check the chat. Hey Angel. So Earth is seriously flat, has been arrested. Awesome. I'll come back to you. I'll probably speak to you guys about that later if Jose's having a live or something. Right. So moving on to using the P1000 and doing the actual main observation, effectively repeating what Miles did. So started off in that area I've just shown you, the boathouse area, and I've taken a picture of the P1000 set up on the tripod just to double up on confirmation of where I am. And then obviously that's the view through the camera from that location, just zooming in. So it's all about showing how it looks and also confirming where everything is actually located. Again, same result with the P1000, obviously, it's just got a slightly different zoom. It is kind of hazy and a bit of, like, you know, refraction in the sense of scintillation and stuff, but there's no, you know, inferior mirage and stuff like that. So then what I did, once I was in the boathouse area down here, I worked my way up the hill, and each time I stopped, I took a picture like this, then a bit of video. So, picture showing what it looked like. You know, obviously I took multiple pictures at each location, but I'm only going to share a couple here. And then video to match, you know. Just, again, the video obviously confirms exactly where you're taking it from, rather than just a still that's zoomed in. So, near the bottom of the hill, next to the first lighthouse tower, basically, for this one. And you know, you find that what was happening that day as far as the weather goes is it was kind of I knew it was going to turn bad, so I had a kind of window to do this stuff in, but it seemed to get a bit clearer for a little bit before I had to worry about it. So some of these shots are a bit better than what they were at the beginning with the P900, funnily enough. Anyway, so then I moved to the kind of midway point up the hill. Took it again, just took another reference photograph and another video to match, and you can already see actually that there has been a difference. Because you're more or less, what I've more or less done there is shown you the same as what we've seen through the P900 so far, the three locations. You know, the boathouse, the bottom of the hill, and the middle of the hill. So as I say, you know, it looks a bit hazy and stuff like that, but you can, it's not preventing you from actually seeing the islands, the lighthouse, and there's no dodgy miraging going on or anything like that. Alright, so then up to the top of the hill, another picture just to confirm, and then a video taken with my phone, again, more confirmation exactly where I am. So I'm obviously more or less in the same location as Miles. He was just over there a bit. You know, he was over to one side and worked down the steps. I'm over to the right of where he was. That's the view from there, from the P1000. And then what I'm going to do is work my way down the path rather than the steps. So this is the view from the P1000, and note the boat on the right here. This boat is going to help us make a certain point before we even get to the main observation. A couple of photos and then a video. So notice that while the boat is going over, I'm up the top of a hill and I'm actually having to look down towards the boat and Phaedra. Now, as you know, guys, one of the most common things that we've talked about so many times is this horizon rises to eye level nonsense. This image completely destroys that point, because the horizon is between the boat that I'm having to look down on and the island that I'm having to look down on. So there's no way for it to be in that location unless it is below me. If I actually had levelled the camera and was looking straight out, I wouldn't be looking at the boat like this. I have to angle slightly down to look at it. And it also goes the same for Phaedra itself. The Phaedra and the lighthouse kind of focal height as I think it's 36 meters, might be wrong, it's somewhere, it's either 35, 36, something like that. And according to the OS information supplied by Miles, the place where I'm located up the top of this hill over here is 25 meters. So, you know, if you actually understood perspective, if you're a flat earther, you would know how eye level works, that neither of these things, you know, I shouldn't have to look down at the horizon. If it rose to eye level, it would be higher up, and I wouldn't have to look down to the top of the lighthouse and feature. Anyway, continuing on. Alright, so basically before I get started, I just want to point out that this is just a quick screen grab of one of my folders on the computer from the photos that I took that day, and what I'm highlighting here is that although I took a bunch of random photographs and some video and stuff as I worked my way up the hill, I also made a point of taking a couple of photographs at one specific zoom level, which you can see there's 467 millimeters, or one focal length. Now, in 35mm equivalent, that's 2600 mil, as you can see here. So 467, 35mm. Alright, so just pause this in a second, give me a sec. Alright, so the whole point of doing that is just that I wanted to make a point that some of the photographs I had when I was doing the observation were all taken from with the same focal length. So if anybody wants to try and match them up to each other in some way, it might be better rather than having a change in angular size due to the different focal lengths. Anyway, so now we're on to the basically my repeat of Miles's observation. I think I started off just by again just establishing where I am. It's all about when you're actually doing this at the time, it's something you can't help but do. You have to kind of go look here I am. And obviously at the time I was actually talking over this video, but it was all windy, so there was no point. That's why I've had to come back and try and edit into another video and narrate it, which failed due to technical issues, which is why we're doing this. So started at the top, as you see, zoomed in, and then walked down part way, similar to what Miles did. So this is my one shot. The difference is obviously this isn't sped up, so I'm going to apologise for the length of this. It's not long, but the whole point is to show it in one continuous shot. So there's no question about exactly where you're located and what view you're getting from each different elevation. So only a few meters difference for that first shot. Excuse me a second. You'll notice that the shots aren't terrible, but they're not entirely stable. That's because although I'm on a tripod, I'm walking down the hill and not on the steps, which gives me a platform to line the tripod up on. Of course, I didn't want to waste time setting the tripod up properly each time I stopped, because I was trying to do it all in one shot, do it as quickly as possible, and make sure the battery didn't run out and stuff. So it's good enough. Excuse me. So then next point is about midway down the hill. So it's an extra stop in addition to what Miles did on his way down the hill. He just did the one and then headed straight over the car park. Excuse me. And it's going to be difficult to tell in the first couple of shots, but when you start getting lower down, it really starts to make a difference, and you can see it. And at this point, I think you can start to see when it zooms out. I think you can just make out another thing that's going to be useful later on. Yep, there's a little boat on the horizon. We'll come back to that in a minute. So next point was, again, basically I've done a couple of points on the hill. I wanted to get a couple of extra reference points rather than just doing one or two. So next to the lighthouse again. And there's something actually that I want to point out. So another false claim that flat earthers make is about angular resolution, and they show these pictures of P900 zooming out and the boat disappears and stuff because the whole thing disappears, and that kind of gets muddled up with another point, which frustrates me as somebody who's done observations because I know it's nonsense, which is the idea that a lot of these things can't be seen with the naked eye. When you're up the top of that hill and you're looking out across the water, you can see the outline of Bassrock, Phaedra and Craigleith together as a kind of, essentially it looks like one shape, but you can see it with the naked eye. And when you walk down the hill and just keep looking at that and start walking down the hill and change your elevation, you can actually see this effect taking place with the naked eye. It's harder to see, but you can see the difference. It's like, because it's a silhouette that's stark contrast above the horizon. When there's changes to it and it starts to disappear, you notice that, So anyway, but this is obviously heading into that little area I pointed out earlier, the boathouse area. It's where I kind of started. As I say, this is just to do this all in the one continuous shot. You can see the little path thing that I pointed out earlier, and we're heading back to look between those bushes and just confirming again, And then, of course, when I zoom in here, this will be one of the first points where as you watch it as a video, you'll really notice the difference between the original shot of what was visible to what you see from this location. So, the island of Phaedra is practically gone. A big chunk of Bassrock is missing, and Craigleith is also largely gone as well. And we can't see that boat that was coming in that I pointed out a second ago. It's no longer visible. So it was visible from a higher elevation, but not from the lower elevation. And we're going to come back to that boat in a minute because it appears again in the footage. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my way around to the plateau area. I'm going to bypass the base of the lighthouse. When you get to this place, the paths run to the right and the left, and to save time I went to the left, so slightly different route from Miles, and I'm not making the stop at the lighthouse, but that's because when I'm over at the shot I just took, it's it kind of compensates for that. I feel like I've done a shot at the bottom of the hill and then that shot that I just took. These kind of match up similar to what Miles did at the base of the lighthouse and then his plateau and elevation. So I'm kind of covering the same general shots but doing it slightly differently. So you see I'm just working my way through the path, and when I get to the end, it comes out to the same point, the little plateau that Miles went to, and you can see the dark area. I'm sure you'll recognise from Miles and Flats' videos. And just a quick look behind to confirm. Alright, so now we're in the same area. What I decided to do was, why stop at a point that when you can keep going, when you can get even lower and show the effect even better. So I worked my way down onto the rocks and set the tripod up in that little hole that you can just see on the left there, basically is where the legs went. So you'll see it better in a second. I took some, a picture and some video just to clarify where it was located. So this is my final location, which is lower than what Miles went to, and obviously lower than anything Flats did because he had to try and stay higher up to do his observations while claiming to be at the 3 meters. So from here, now you can see that boat that I was talking about, but you can't see it all, you can only see the top of it. And Phaedra and Craigleith are basically gone. Bassrock, you can only see the upper part of it. You can't really see, if you look carefully, but you'll see this better in the pictures, there's like a tiny little raised portion which is just the very, very tip of Craigleith and so on, but they're essentially gone. So this was my final location, and then what I did was I took some footage with the phone just to confirm where the tripod was and everything. You'll see that in a second, but this boat that you see on the right, obviously that's how we expect a boat to look, and we'll come back to that in a minute. So this is the P1000 on the rocks. That's how the tripod was set up in there, and then, as I say, a bit of video to accompany that just to confirm what you're seeing. So just a quick look, and then if you give it a minute, I climb over to the side and I can get a side view. Oh, yeah. So this is the final location, and and it's handy to be able to see it like this, because I know that some people, if they look at it just purely from the video view from the P1000, they'll try and make it seem as if I'm right next to the water and blocking my view with waves, which is just absolute nonsense. So this is a rough estimate, about 2 meters, I would say, based on the height of my tripod. And then obviously you can see the difference in height when I'm having to climb up the rocks to get to the plateau area. So obviously Miles was up there on the plateau area plus height of a tripod. And obviously this is when I was, as I say, I was talking about all this stuff when I was making the videos at the time, so that's what all the gesticulating is about. But I'm just pointing out the flat area, and then was talking about that difference between Miles being there and the level of his camera, and the fact that Flatsa had to, his first observation Flatsa did up here in the rocks when Miles had come down here, and then look at the difference in height from the plateau down to where I've put my camera. So I think that 3 meters for that location is actually probably incorrect. And also it's hard to show this. I tried to show it in video, but see if you stand at the base of the lighthouse and you look over into the water, I'm not convinced it's only 5 meters to the water either. But it's not something I can prove without measurements, so I'm not going to go into that too much. But the point is, when you go from the lighthouse base down to the rocks, there's a good couple of meters of difference in elevation, and it does make a difference. Obviously just showing that is the video's still recording away and showing that view. There's nothing different about it. I haven't magically placed the P1000 in a different location. So this is the resultant images, and I just want to pause this one. So this is two taken from the rocks, and this was one I took just to get that boat into view that I was talking about a minute ago. So you can literally only see the bridge of this boat. There's a kind of fuzzy bit here, which if you watch it in video, it appears to be one of the cranes at the front of the boat. And I think, this little kind of black line is the very sort of top edge of the hull or whatever. So most of the boat is gone, just the bridge really that's visible. Can't see Phaedra at all. Let me just move this on. Again, I think you can just make out that's like the edge of the boat. So the video, as I say, it's all a bit fuzzy and hazy, which is something I couldn't avoid because of the weather, but it's still enough to see what's going on. There should be a whole island with a lighthouse here, and there should be any boat that's on the water should be above the water, but we're only seeing the bridge sticking up. We can't see the island it's passing in front of at all. An island which is obviously taller with a lighthouse on it. So this kind of runs for a minute, and I think I kind of watch it going across in front of the island here, just because I like that contrast. But let me just skip it in a bit. I swung round to look at this other boat just to show the difference between how a boat should look when it's on the surface of the water, and also that helps to give an idea that the fact that the waves aren't very big, and there's not a lot of chop and swell and stuff. You would notice that against the boat. But so the difference it's making with distance is really noticeable. And that was just a final kind of establishing again, here's where I am, here's what you can see. So that's Burnt Island. Let me just skip this in a bit. Right, we're nearly at the end of that. I think I just let it go out of screen and then ended the video. Right, oh, sorry. Alright, so this is the images that I've taken from the different points with the P1000 as I've worked my way down the hill, and then again just adjusted them a bit to try and make it a bit easier to see what's going on. As it steps through, you can see the difference as it gets lower. So basically, these are the reference images that I was referring to. So these are all taken with the same focal length, 2600mm 35mm equivalent. Now, actually, before I move this on to the next one, this shot has got all three in shot, and if you look very carefully, There's a slight change in the colour in here. As I was saying a minute ago, that's just a very, very, very tip of Craigleith. And if I'm right, there's a little smudge here which might be the very top of the lighthouse, but basically the lighthouse and all the island is gone. And Bass Rock just looks like a little squashed saucer now. It doesn't look like a big imposing rock. And that was just to, again, that shot with the boat in for comparison as well. So these are now moving on to stills that I took from the video, and the stills were taken from all of the locations where I stopped. So this is how it looks through it from the video version. Also, they're not all lined up left and right sort of thing, but the main focus is always Phaedra to give you the idea what's changing with the elevation. You can see it, disappear, sink, 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 and just disappear. Until it's gone. Alright, so finally, the last thing that I did that day was, I tried to film the big boat that I showed out in the water for a length of time, but it started to rain. As I say, I knew the weather was going to change and I had a limited window, and that happened. It was starting to get rained on when it was at the end of the rocks. So what I did was I packed up, but before I disappeared, I went back up and I stood at the base of the lighthouse and I took some handheld, a couple of quick photos and a quick bit of video just to round off. So this here is the boat that we were just looking at, which we could only see the bridge of. By the time I finished doing everything else and moved up, obviously it had come in a bit closer. And I've changed my elevation, so this is what the difference is. Again, a bit hazy, but you can still see, we can now see the top of Phaedra and part of the lighthouse and so on by moving up to that, from the rocks, which about 2 meters, to the base of the lighthouse, which is supposedly 5 meters plus the height, added on from me holding the camera, so about 6 meters, if that's accurate. And then the video, I'll say this is just handheld, so a bit rough, but just bear with it a sec. So, again, just this comparison with the boats, you can see how that looks. And you'll see the other boat in a second when I move around. Very clearly up on the surface of the water, which is what you would expect for any boat, And when you zoom in, it's the whole thing's completely visible. So just a difference in a bit of distance and elevation, and it's the difference between the entire boat being visible and most of it being sunk below the water. And then again, just the island on video, you can see it. You can see Craigleith and Phaedra sticking up to either side. And that was pretty much the end of it. I think I just, as I say, I was kind of waffling when I was making these videos at the time, so I just did a kind of quick, identifying the locations again and talking about Flatsa again. So from a different point of view, if you looked at Flatsa, I was somewhere up here on the rocks doing his first video, and then he's moved over here, but somehow managed to keep his elevation such, maybe with a tall tripod and whatever, that it was still up level with these rocks when he took his imagery, whereas Miles was down here, and that's where I was for my lowest location, was down on the rocks there. So again, it was just that last minute sort of, right, once again, this is where we were, this is where everything was done, this is where I am now, kind of thing. So that's pretty much it, finally. Hopefully it's all streamed okay, because the reason for doing this, as I said, was technical problems. I don't normally do live streams to show observations. It's just that I was having a problem with the final result was always coming out really, really choppy for some reason. I've never had that problem before. So that's pretty much it. But then what I've done is I've gathered together all the images and put them side by side so you can see these. So give me a second and I will show you those guys. Oh. This doesn't seem to be responding to clicks. Give me a second. Alright. I've tried to start a stream again. Let's see if this works. Maybe I need to do a new one altogether. Okay, so I tried to start a new stream, but it right. I've tried to start a new stream, guys, without quitting, the one that's going on the YouTube side of things, so I don't lose you altogether. But now that I'm actually doing that, I can see the logo with the spinny circle rather than what I'm actually trying to show you. This is fun. I might have to do it like a proper end the stream and then. God damn. Why does none of this stuff work when you need it to? Right. You may get booted from chat. I'm going to try just ending the stream and we'll do it a different way.